Good evening, everyone. Today, we dive into the recent rumors surrounding a potential Legend of Zelda movie. Welcome to the Switch Clicks Podcast, episode 140, recorded on June 13th, 2023. Now, my name is Kaiser, alright? I know you guys missed me. I did too.
It's been 9 episodes.
Yes, alright, took a little hiatus. You see, they had a little beach episode, I was invited. Now, speaking of which, my co-host, Dakota,
I've already said stuff.
obviously, but I still have to introduce you.
I guess.
The
Yes.
man himself, Nathan,
we're no longer alone, so it's no longer dangerous.
of course, and the man who has been carrying the podcast, and I do really mean that, Tyler.
Hello, I can't believe you just said that, Nathan. What a that.
Yeah, oh my god, it's been a long while since we last been together.
Yeah, literally 10
Been a little
episodes. Last time we were all together, we talked about the Mario movie. Guess what we're talking about today?
You know, it's kind of like,
What were the odds? What were the odds? What were the odds?
Probably not
Apparently
that high.
100%.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty low. I don't think this rumor came out like very, very recently. And if it wasn't for this rumor, we'd probably be very loosely talking about maybe Tears of the Kingdom. Although I heard Dakota is still progressing through the game, and
Yes.
I do not want to spoil it for him.
I'm just
So-
absorbing everything on my Twitter timeline, unfortunately.
Most likely, we will talk about it next week if a Nintendo Direct does not come around the corner.
It probably will never come.
There will never be another one. They've stopped actually.
Finally.
Tears of the Kingdom, last good game. Or
Yeah,
last
just-
game ever.
the
They
last-
shut up studio after that. They're like, well, that's it. That's all we.
Pikmin 4 canceled.
Let's get back on track. Now, overall, Nintendo, obviously, we've seen the success of the Mario movie. Peak fiction, Diddy Kong, alright?
Oh my goodness.
Now the
Of course they
question is, what kind of the details surrounding it? Obviously muddled. We don't know the specifics. I want to know specifics, but of course that'll never come.
Literally, the only thing we know about the Zelda movie is that there's a rumored deal between Nintendo and Universal that's being close to signed.
Yeah,
That's
I
the-
have to. The current theory is that I think that rumor came out the weekend of Spider-Verse.
it did.
So they saw the success of Spider-Verse, and now Illumination, like they like to experiment a little bit with their animation, a little bit, tiny bit. They did
Wow.
probably the most of their animation with the Mario movie. Hopefully, they push it a little bit more with the Zelda one. But the theory is that they greenlit this one pretty fast, the Zelda movie pretty fast, because of Spider-Verse.
Which is a
Well,
little weird because it's
yeah.
not like. I mean, they're both animated movies, but Mario didn't exactly do any. Like, I feel like if they were like, oh yeah, we can 100% keep pushing our like stylized animated movies if Spider-Verse does well, but Mario was pretty safe. It looked pretty, but it wasn't like a shockingly visual kind of movie.
I
It
mean,
was-
compared to other Illumination, I'd say it was pretty
It-
shocking.
Shocking for Illumination.
It looked bad for Illumination for sure. Maybe that's the path that they're going on. With these bigger budget, bigger IP franchises coming in here.
Mhm.
Maybe that's the path that they're setting on, and they're gonna get better. Like, just gonna get better at animation from this point on.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
like
For something like Zelda, they need the awe-inspiring landscapes of Hyrule.
Yeah. I
for
feel
anything to work.
strongly that they definitely do need to have very strong art direction, and
oh
it
boy,
and I do love the art direction of the Mario movie, and as we've stated a long while back, in insert episode number here.
130.
Sorry. In episode 130, right, we talked about how visually the Mario movie is gorgeous, all the colors, or even the locations, right? You- And they
Mhm.
really do have to match it, if not surpass that kind of art direction.
Yeah,
Well,
just
Zelda
make it
movie.
look better.
there
Like,
is.
but it's like I feel like visuals are going to be very important for this movie, but I think like Illumination can do pretty visuals. What they haven't really been able to prove is that they can make like a mature, compelling story, which most, I imagine, I'm pretty sure most Zelda games fall into that category. There isn't like a
Uh,
even like
I
the
won't say it's the
goofiest Zelda
most
games.
mature, but it's
most.
definitely more mature.
Yeah,
I,
not like R rated or anything, but it's definitely.
yeah. I mean, that depends.
But
Depends on
I
how
feel
you look
like
at
even
things.
the goofiest Zelda game has a more like nuanced story than like Mario.
Okay,
Clearly, you have not seen Tingle's balloon ride.
okay, hear
Okay.
me
Clearly,
out.
you have not played.
Okay, well,
Hear me out. So, assuming that Miyamoto is staying on, the movie's not going to be as mature as something as if, say,
Oh crap!
Eiji
You're right.
Aonuma would be coming on. Like, I doubt Aonuma would have the time to come off of the game development to help produce the movie. So it'd have to be, Miyamoto. And Miyamoto, knowing how Miyamoto reacted to Twilight Princess, like, darker game, or even Majora's Mask, he didn't really particularly like those. He liked the charm that the brighter games brought. So if anything, this will be a much brighter movie than what the so-called
yeah.
majority of fans want. I'm not sure if that's actually majority or not.
But even
Um,
like Wind Waker has like his sister's kidnapped and he stabs Ganondorf in the head.
I mean, yeah, that's as far as they'll be going. I doubt they'd be going anywhere farther than that. Um,
Yeah, it's a very interesting
and
direction.
and with art style, it is noteworthy that the Mario movie still used the generic Illumination art style with all the Mario designs like basically just slapped into it.
Yeah,
Like
Um,
mixing them together.
it's a lot of
they
fun to
basically just
just
I'm
a
not sure
lot.
if that I'm not sure if they're going to be doing the same here, but I do have a really good feeling that's going to be the case. Um, because when you think about it, the Illumination art style does kind of look similar to certain official
Yeah.
game arts of Zelda. I think it was the Oracle games that had this type of art style that feels a lot more generic and like for example, they had round eyes in those games. I figure
Yeah.
maybe this is something that Illumination would be basing off of, and that's what Miyamoto would probably choose.
And
Um,
even like Breath of the Wild, like the people in Breath of the Wild don't look too far off from like the
eh,
They look
once again,
wonky. I will say that.
Breath of the Wild is kind of like a bit more anime
yeah.
than
But
what you
like
get
I
from
wouldn't
Illumination.
bat
It's like
too
more
much of an eye
setting.
if I saw like one of the Breath of the Wild NPCs in the Mario movie. Like if they were obviously if they weren't in like a Legend of Zelda looking outfit, but like if their face just showed up, I'd be maybe a little confused, but it isn't like the furthest off from what they might do. And if I'm being honest, Breath of the Wild being as big as it is, it's probably going to be where the movie takes a chunk of its inspiration, like visually from. Maybe not
I
story wise.
I
Visually,
disagree
I
again.
I
I
can kind of see that.
highly doubt that. Okay, so even though Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are more successful, than previous entries, everyone and people are starting to recognize Link more for his blue champion's
Oh
tunic
no, yeah.
rather than his Peter Pan inspired green tunic. I think Miyamoto, being Miyamoto, would probably want to bring the more classic
Yeah.
appearances of the
I don't think his
characters.
design
Yeah.
is gonna like. I don't think green tunic would make sense, but I'm like more like how when Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are marketed, where they have more like that kind of look, like the paintbrushy, maybe kind of like
Oh man,
that.
I'm not too
Yeah,
sure.
that'd be a
I don't
little
think they're gonna go
difficult
for like
to do
a
it.
Wind Waker or like maybe Skyward Sword because it's kind of generic, but like Twilight
I'm
Princess or Wind Waker,
well.
I'd feel like are completely off the table stylistic wise, like style
Yeah,
wise.
yeah, I am completely doubtful they would ever choose that art style. If anything, they just go with their standard Illumination art style and
Mhm.
work off of like some older games that actually had something similar.
I like the idea of bringing like almost all art styles together. Maybe less Twilight Princess, less Wind Waker. But I like the idea of like the Oracle games, maybe mixing a little bit with the Breath of the Wild and Skyward Sword. Kind of
Yeah.
so you can get a mix of all of them.
Yeah, like a good middle ground. That would.
I
Yeah.
think that'll be probably what they're going to aim for because they can't just say, "Oh, it's Zelda," but which one, right? They're definitely going to try and kind of hone down a style that really speaks to really most of the games, right? And I feel strongly that the Breath of the Wild style, with some tweaks, could really match in Illumination, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
But
I feel that they could
Hmm.
take it a bit of inspiration from Skyward Sword in terms of like the colors and proportions, right? Like
yeah,
all
or
types
even
of
like the
textures.
official art, like the not in-game stuff, obviously from like Ocarina of Time and like the promotional material.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
you could fold in some of that
Yeah,
for
with the
Legend of
illustrations
Zelda.
and renders, yeah.
I saw somebody point out recently that completely changed my whole viewing on the Zelda timeline, but we won't get into that. That they said the Legend of Zelda is a legend. So every iteration is slightly different than last.
Mm-hmm. Because
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
based on
That's
the.
like the evolve over
That's
time.
pretty
That's
much
genius. I've never really thought about that.
that's pretty much what I've been. That's pretty much what I used as my base theory for Breath of the Wild's timeline placement.
That's
Yeah,
insane.
because the thing is,
Yeah,
Legends still. The
it's a
issue is
story.
Legends.
It's a children's story. It's a fairy tale. It's a myth.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
That does make
this
me,
movie would just be an iteration of that.
It just
yeah,
be or
it will be interesting because like
well,
Legend of Zelda has a like kind of formulaic story, like with the idea of Link being reincarnated, not rein, like
Kind of.
reincarnated.
Yeah,
Reincarnated is the
reincarnated the first
right
time.
one.
okay, yeah, Link being reincarnated to fight another like or Ganondorf again. Like that's kind of the basic thing. But each Legend of Zelda game, like it doesn't. I don't really have a. I don't
Very
really. It's such a weird. I don't know what they're gonna do with the story
I
because there's so much stuff.
yeah.
It's difficult to. I feel they're gonna have a lot of struggle really condensing the story. At least either they try to retell a story or create a whole different story. Actually, that's what I want to get into, right? What do you believe the story beats that the story will take after? Will
Yeah.
be more
Mm,
Ocarina of Time based? Will be have some points from Skyward Sword? Or that's
I
the big question on my mind right now.
it would I'd have
ah,
to like it
ah.
would either be like a specific game being like referenced or like the most default basic like first Legend of Zelda game kind of storyline because I mean you can like visit a variety of lands. But with Legend of Zelda, it's probably Nintendo's most like actual story driven series. And you know, famously, very heavily story driven video games translate to movies really well.
Z-
So
Well,
I know.
story.
I almost shot you down there,
Story.
Tyler. I almost shot you down there, Tyler. Uh, I guess you could argue that Xenoblade is not made by Nintendo, but they do
um,
publish it, and that's
yeah.
Sorry, I gotta tell you this, but Xenoblade did not sell
extremely.
10 billion copies in a weekend.
Yeah, kind of focus is
Um,
that a lot of the games feel more narrative based than story based, right? Because the story is there, but without that, but they're really focused on the narrative with how they kind of build the world rather than build the story, really. Because if you look at Twilight Princess, I love the storytelling, but a lot of it was very focused on the narrative of that responsibility throughout the game, right? The responsibility of having the Triforce of courage, how uh, Zelda really deals with the Twilight stuff, right? And
Mhm.
the story could be better to a degree, but
I-
a lot more
yeah.
focus is on that narrative in the themes, right? It's gonna be kind of hard to uh translate that to an Illumination film, in my opinion.
I'm a little worried because I do feel like in the wrong hands, the Legend of Zelda movie could almost be the almost exact same story beat wise from like the Mario. It could be the same as the Mario movie. Like you could pretty much do outside of like the outside of the what's it called isekai-ness of it all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like it could be pretty much the same story.
that's a risk.
yeah.
That is definitely a
Yeah,
risk there.
that's a big risk.
Um,
I feel that risk is a lot more prevalent if they try to do a Hyrule's Warrior story kind of thing, right?
oh,
That
okay,
would be
well,
I'm not talking about like merging of timelines and universes. I'm talking about like Link being a
ensemble
part of like
ensemble cast type of
yeah.
thing. Yeah,
Which
that.
I
Uh,
don't want that kind of story beat there. It's just okay.
the fact that they did that, um, two games with that too. So it kind
Yeah.
of takes away the whole purpose of Link being the center. Um, but I think what they like looking at the Mario movie, they did start exploring stuff that we never saw in the games themselves.
Mhm.
And one of the things I've thought about, what I thought about Miyamoto probably bringing up is probably something that they did in Mario movie where they had Peach and Mario team up. I think technically this was already done in one Zelda game where they had Zelda team up with Link, but I do suspect this might be the route that they'll take for this movie as well.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of having a bigger cast for this.
I could see it
The
almost
Legend of
being like
Zelda actually focusing on Zelda.
you know
Yeah.
yeah, have any of you had the not displeasure, but like the meh viewing experience of Raya and the Last Dragon?
No, I skipped that movie.
I
Okay.
skipped it as well.
Cuz that movie pretty much follows a like elevator pitch for the movie is girl needs to save her city or town or whatever, so she goes to every other town and gets one friend, and with all the friends they can save the town. And I feel like Legend of Zelda could do that, where they get like
That sounds like Breath
funny
of the Wild.
Fact,
like a
Yeah.
funny comedian voicing a
or at
Goron
least the sages,
just
right?
follows along or something. That could be a possibility.
They
the
bring in
fact that they
Tingle.
did that in so many games
They
already.
bring in Tingle. They bring in Tingle. All right, Tingle.
I
No Tingle.
Tingle will never be a main character in a Zelda movie.
He'll be
Maybe a
He already
side
has
Uma
been.
of the Zelda
And
movie.
freshly picked Tingle's Rosie Rupee Land.
Oh gosh. Oh dear.
That would be probably the most interesting choice they could choose, like direction they could go. Just not have Link at all.
Oh,
Link?
That's not happening.
No,
You know how
they
mad
have to.
people would be?
No, I don't. They
speaking of
announced the
Link, though,
Tingle movie.
The Tingle worst.
oh dear.
How are you gonna
Ooh.
segue through Tingle? Wait, what?
I don't know. I don't know how that works, but
You see,
Isn't like the Tingle game about Tingle just wanting a bunch of money so he can get so he can get a girlfriend?
I'm not
Yeah.
sure about girlfriend, but yeah, basically that's the
he
gist
just
of
gets
it.
he just
That
gets
could be the
tingled.
movie. Honestly, that could be a genuinely interesting movie.
I mean, if you want him as
Okay.
the main villain, that might work.
Okay.
It'll come with the Blu-ray. It was a short story, and you'll have a panic
it's a
attack in it.
Of course.
Like the Pixar shorts that always come with the DVD copy of an old Pixar movie.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Of how Tingle is actually like disturbing Link's journey of like trying to sell maps, right?
Yeah.
All right, I think we're getting off track a bit, but I know
Yeah.
that
Sorry
Nathan
for
has
bringing
like a
up Tingle.
synopsis of his preferred Zelda movie.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Posted
my
this
bad.
over on the Zelda Wiki Discord. Basically, like, I think it's gonna be generic story just because of for the sake of being a movie, being the first movie. Ganondorf or Ganon is the villain. I don't know whichever one they prefer. Ganon, the Beast Ganon form is much more interesting to design.
I bet
maybe the
Ganondorf is more marketable though. So
Ganondorf could
They
be
need
more
a-
marketable, even though he's only been in like a few games.
they need hot. They need to make him hot. All right,
I
it'll
do
sell
think more
more.
people know Ganondorf, mostly because of Smash Bros. As well. So
Most
Yeah,
definitely.
that's true. And plus, I think Illumination has some very unique human villains already.
Mhm.
Um, I think that the Link that we'll be seeing is a young boy, so it's kind of like
Okay.
the some of the games. Um,
Wait, like how
and
young?
well, I'm thinking like 10 to 13
So
years
like
of age.
young.
Yeah, pretty much young
Okay.
Link, young, maybe, somewhere around that age. Just to cater to the younger audiences and
If
whatever
they,
Miyamoto wants.
I wonder if they're gonna age him up just a tiny bit so they can do some romance with Zelda if they choose to. It's a little bit weird for a
you know,
13-year-old kid.
Miyamoto is not the type to
Do romance.
push,
I
to
mean,
push romance.
like
Um,
Mario and Peach have like a
They,
canon
they,
relationship, and they like barely even locked eyes in the movie.
they
That is
push.
true.
yeah,
Yeah,
that felt more of a situational thing than than an
Maybe
actual
they'll do the
relationship.
stereotypical anime like meet cute thing.
yeah. They kind of.
Yeah,
They accidentally touch hands, both of them blush, boom, you're done.
They're kind
yeah,
of the biggest
They
that's
team.
both
probably as far as I'll
Why?
go.
Triforce of
Yeah.
wisdom, but they get a pick. She
hmm
gets it first, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and it's like, "Oh," and then from there.
Yeah. Um, Zelda's
Well,
probably going to be the same age as Link, because I mean,
yeah.
that's exactly how it works.
Mhm.
Um,
Kind of thing with
and
like a lot
how I
of the Zelda games, right? Is that they don't explicitly say a romantic. It's more purely platonic, right?
actually one of them does have a romantic.
I forgot. I am a fake fan. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Lord Master. You can strike me down now. I
And
am
you
no
know
longer. I'm not fit for the podcast.
if the two main characters, Zelda and Link, are very young, that's also an interesting character development they could do throughout the movie. Zelda has to now like take the throne or something. She has to bear the burden of A, the Triforce, and B, the throne. So you could do something like that.
hmm and I was thinking that okay, so Zelda's young. Her, she's still a princess. Like she still has parents who run the kingdom. Oh, boom! Ganondorf suddenly attacks, and Zelda's the only one who escapes, or something like that. And that's basically the pushing point for Link and Zelda to go on an adventure together. Um, and I think I wrote down here that Link, this iteration of Link would have a younger sister and a father or grandfather, just to reference some other games. Um, they don't want Link to leave, but the village elder that sees Link and Zelda knows the situation. Encourages them leave, and then says the legendary words after giving Link a weapon.
Yeah, his last name is Tree or something.
Mr. Deku Tree.
Or yeah, and apparently, the adventure starts there. I'm not sure if they're going to go on an adventure where they recruit more people, or if they're going to go on an adventure, a classic Zelda adventure where they solve dungeons and get more of special items or something like that. But
That's the hard part, I think. The middle
that's
ground is where it falls apart for anything.
yeah, because
Yeah.
if you look at the Mario movie, they completely abandoned the idea of worlds. They
They
basically just
completely abandoned the idea of a second act.
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much.
They just go straight into
They
it.
just
Yeah.
glossed over everything and went straight to basically treated their third act as kind of their second act.
Yeah, you were saying there is two ways they can go. You can either
Yeah.
do they're going through Hyrule, recruiting people, cool, you get to meet new characters, or
Yeah.
you go through dungeons. But one of the problems of earlier video game movies was that you
hmm
always felt like you wanted to play the game that they were making that they were
Yeah.
showing in front of you.
Yeah.
So if they were just doing in the dungeon in animated form and they're trying to figure out the stupid puzzle, that
hmm
would be horrible in theaters.
You know
Are you
what?
saying
You know
you
what?
don't want like the middle of the movie to be Link stuck on a puzzle for an hour? Is that
Yeah,
not what you want in
exactly.
the movie?
Because you know how many Zelda fans are going to be in that audience just
Oh
screaming
my
at the
gosh.
screen?
Oh,
Yeah.
they bring in the Water Temple.
It is a really
My
weird
gosh.
dilemma because Legend of Zelda is known for its dungeons and puzzles, but that's
And
so
literal
hard to
freedom.
fit into a movie, like
Yeah.
and make it interesting.
I think maybe like if they were at a dungeon sequence because of those fears, it's probably going to last maybe no longer than 5 minutes.
It's a
And then there's
montage.
well, it's not going to be a montage. It's just going to be a small dungeon type of thing.
Yeah, I was maybe
Focus a lot
something
more
like
on they focus a lot more on suspense and maybe the atmosphere of the dungeon rather than having like a full blown puzzle ridden large structure with a boss at the ending.
I think
be
they
like
could
boss
still
at
have
the
a
end could be
boss.
cool.
They could still have a boss.
They
Just
definitely have a boss. They definitely have an item, but it'd be like maybe a 5 minute sequence or something. It wouldn't be a huge section of the movie.
Mhm.
They have no
Yeah.
reason to do that.
I think
But
there
the
with
rest of the dungeons would
dungeon-
probably have to be like a montage type of thing. Which I'm a little scared about. Like, I'm not sure if it's gonna be like, oh, there's gonna run through 8 dungeons and
Pop
something like
song
that.
incoming.
Pop song montage. Pop song. Yeah.
Oh,
get the morning feeling like Pete.
can we take like 1 section, like 1 second of this podcast to all throw out one pop song, like guess for the movie?
Oh my god.
It could be anything.
I'm gonna go a little funky with it. And say that oh shoot, I can't remember what it's called. Uptown Funk is gonna be in the movie.
I you know I no, you know what, I'm not gonna question it. I can see that actually.
Take on Me
Oh.
was in Mario. I don't know what.
Copy of
Like-
Mario, right?
Like everything's all up the air. I'm feeling that they'll put something in by Motley Crue though.
Never gonna
I-
give you up.
Oh no.
No.
Rickroll.
The Rickroll, okay.
The Rickroll.
I think-
I you know
They did that for the Angry Birds
don't
movie.
Even, don't even
Oh,
say
yeah,
that
you're right,
as
they
a
did.
joke. Don't even say that as a joke.
I think to introduce Link's Village, or at the end of the movie when they're rebuilding Hyrule or whatever, they're helping the townspeople. They're gonna play "We Built This City"
Yeah.
on rock and roll.
You know,
That's
I would,
good.
you know that
It's
sounds
like
pretty
around the
solid.
same era that's in like a song that's in every Illumination movie. So
Yeah, I could see it.
We built
Maybe
this
maybe
city.
instead of rock and roll, it'll be like the Triforce or something. They
Oh,
change it
dear.
slightly.
Okay, no.
the immigration
no, bullshit.
song. That's a good guess, I feel.
All
What,
I
Link-
hope is that whatever
Yeah.
song they play, Cass starts it.
Wait, so the immigration song. So what? Link pulls out the Master Sword suddenly.
Wait,
No,
the immigration
no,
song.
no. Does a superhero
No.
land amidst the battle and then like starts beating up like 50 enemies at once?
Wait, yeah, that actually works
You
so
know,
well.
kind of building off like that first dungeon sequence, right? Where they kind of discover, or like more so the idea of the Master Sword, not really introduce the Master Sword, but kind of hint towards it, right? How that's probably the next location they'll go to, and Ganondorf, Ganon is actively looking for it to kind of make sure that Link or Zelda will not get to it before him.
I mean, for the opening to explain to explain the Master Sword, if I was the director, I would do like one of those. Zelda's famous for their openings on their title screens, where they
Yeah.
kind of explain whatever the current story is going on. Like they did that in Minish Cap. Skyward Sword's famous for theirs. What else? There, I guess Ocarina of Time kind of did that too.
Breath of the Wild had one little later in.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I like kind of like the lore breakdown. If they could do some kind of tease like that, I like Ocarina of Times. I think the most
Almost.
because there's a lot of information.
Yeah.
I don't think the Elder of Link's Village should explain it. Just us standing there.
No, it'd have to be like a flashback or like a montage type of thing.
Yeah,
Like at the beginning of Lord of the Rings, where you just have
Ew.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember her name,
Really.
and she's talking like really softly about the history of the ring, but it's that except it's the Triforce.
I mean, yeah, that could work.
yeah.
Just have Impa talk about the
Yeah,
Triforce.
Chris Galadriel.
Basically, what she did in the
Galadriel, that's her name.
2017
Thank you.
trailer.
Yeah.
The history of the
legend
royal
of the the
The
history,
history of the royal family
family.
and its ties to the Triforce, right?
Yeah,
And
something like that,
how like Ganondorf is. The thing is, they could take a story beat from Ocarina of Time of how Ganon is present, schmoozing the king, right?
I actually really like that as well. I really like when they add like political stuff into something, or like different ties for characters that already existed. It's not just,
Yeah.
oh, we got this magic wizard that just showed up randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that would actually kind of clue us into at least Zelda recognizes that something's off by his presence. It kind of, I mean, of course, he looks evil, but that doesn't mean he is evil. And then, oh no, oh no, he actually summons his monsters and the like. It's like crazy. Who would have thought?
Well, one thing to note is how Illumination used to handle their villains. I'm not sure if they did that in their later movies as well, but they did they did a decent job explaining like the origin story of how their villains came to be. And I think maybe if they're to pull something out like that here, that could make up for some really good history, like a really good history section, maybe.
Yeah, I think in
Yeah.
general, Illumination villains are pretty good with their origin stories, and maybe except what is it, the half twin brother Gru situation.
Yeah, true.
That was really bad. But
I
other
mean,
than that, they're all
they're
pretty good.
trying to pull something out. I feel with the way they could introduce Ganon, right? He would definitely introduce his what's called motivation. Of course, there's something Gerudo, how he's here to really just speak about it, but on how he kind of states it puts Zelda off, as it feels like he's aiming more for like Hyrule rather than just like like more stable peace, right?
Yeah, get the guys who wrote Arcane
Yeah.
on this. They did that stuff really well.
Mind you,
I thinking of Ganondorf reminded me of our casting video, and with Illumination taking this over, it is annoyingly possible for at least one of those casting predictions to be correct. And I, for
we
one,
hope
hope
it's
it
not
does
Mark
work
Wahlberg.
out. I hope
Yeah.
it's. I hope Marky Mark does not touch this. Does not touch this movie.
that's your fault for casting him.
Did I? I don't remember if I was the one who picked it. It was too
Well,
long
I don't
I'm not
remember.
sure.
It was either me or Tyler, but
It
it
was
was at
me.
2
I
a.m.
feel
Nobody
like
remembers.
Timothy Chalamet is up there as like probably the highest.
Which would mean Tilda Swinton would probably never
I
get that,
don't
because assuming Link and
know.
Zelda would be the
They want
same
to be the
age.
same age.
Who do you think would be a possible replacement if Chalamet got Link?
Tell us in the comments down below.
It's like really hard to think.
It could actually be anyone, come to think of it.
I mean, if Nintendo puts out a video exactly like how they announced the cast for the Mario movie, you already know we're gonna milk that.
Oh dear. that's gonna be an interesting turn of events in our Nintendo Cinematic Universe video series.
Yeah. From here on out, that video will be just wrong every day.
Yeah, that stinks.
Is that it?
I don't have anything else to talk about, really.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's all pray that this movie is good and it comes out in like 2026 or something. Give it time.
Mhm.
Actually,
Yeah, roughly
2026 is way
between
too soon.
Avatar 3 and Avatar 4, I'm thinking.
Yeah, that actually
Let's
sounds
hope-
pretty okay.
Let's hope it doesn't come out after Avatar 5. I don't want to be 30 years old when the Legend of Zelda movie comes out.
Thank you for joining us discussing a rumored Legend of Zelda movie. Now, we would love it if you could follow us on Twitter and listen to future episodes on Spotify and iTunes. Join our community Discord to continue today's discussion, and we'll see you next time on the Switch Clicks podcast.